that is, has our opinion on Devin Bush changed now that we have a Brian Flores here? Boy said yes. You ain't even got to finish the question, bro. Yes.
It does. It does. I was talking about trading him. Then we could bring in Devondre Campbell. There was so many good things about trading Devin Bush. Clearing up cap space. We could bring in a stud linebacker.
Yep.
We didn't have anyone that we really thought that was going to coach him up like potentially Brian Flores could, though. So, I'm good with keeping Bush. Although there is a hint of me that still feels like, I think it's still the smart move to trade him. But now it goes back to what you said about the offensive line. If we had Munchak, maybe you are less concerned in the agency or draft in addressing every position or multiple positions on the line because you feel like Munchak could coach the dudes that we have up.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with Flores. I feel like these coaching position matters. So with him being there, I feel like he's going to be able to coach up the linebackers. Hell, Buddy Johnson might be low-key a stud now.
Okay. See, now you're speaking my language, Deke.
Yeah.
So for me, bro, like, I am very, very excited. And it's funny, man, just the timing of everything. I was actually in the process of breaking down Devin Bush tape because I really just wanted to create something where we can just talk about what he does really well and some of the things that he struggles with, to just kind of put it out there on the table. But now with Brian Flores being in, I think that is even more relevant. So I definitely want to get that out to you guys, as soon as possible, because, man, with Flores, he is going to be able to greatly improve Devin, just in the sense of, like you talked about Munchak. If you don't have Mike Munchak, are we talking about a Chris Hubbard? Are we talking about a Matt Filer? Are we talking about an Alejandro Villanueva? Not at all. Zero chance. And even to the sense that, look at those guys since they've left. Now, we understand it's been different, but since Munchak has been removed from those guys directly, all of their play has looked a little bit different, right? In terms of how we view them, in terms of the standard that we hold them, or the regard that we hold them with. But when you think about what Brian Flores could bring to that table in that inside linebacker room, I think that, he can ultimately develop Devin Bush even more. Buddy Johnson, Robert Spillane, even Joe Schobert, if we decide to keep him or restructure that contract, however we want to deal with that. I just think that having Brian especially be titled linebackers coach as well, we know he's going to be hands-on. We know he's going to take that same energy, that same approach that he had as a head coach, as a defensive coordinator, that same approach in terms of preparation, in terms of the details. And instead of it being big picture, he's going to be able to zero in on Devin Bush. He's going to be able to zero in on that linebacker group. And I just think, man, when you get that type of attention, that level coaching on an intimate level like that, you are going to grow as a player exponentially. And I speak from personal experience because, once again, with Coach Tomlin, right? You heard Terrence Garvin when he was on the show last week or whatever, talking about our winning edge meetings and how you had to be a certain quality player or person to even get introduced into those meetings because they were intimate with Coach Tomlin. When I finally got my access to being in those meetings, you got to earn it. That's the thing. You definitely got to earn it. But when I, finally was able to get into those meetings and you start to hear the details of a head coach, of a coordinator on that level, but when he's specifically talking about you, hey, Most, don't stay in the 6 right here, shade it a little bit. Hey, Most, when you drop right here, don't look at the receiver. You want to have your eyes back on this guy right here because you're going to try to steal this cross that they like to run. Those little coaching points that, if I'm just telling you right now, Deke, hey, man, do your curl flat drop because it's cover 3. You're not going to be thinking about those intimacies like that, the little intimate details like that. Whereas with Flores, he's bringing that to those guys day to day now. It doesn't just have to be one day a week because with Coach Tomlin, it was always on Fridays, right? Friday after practice, we get our winning edge group, the select few. But now with Brian Flores, it's like, Devin Bush, you're going to get this on Monday. You're going to get this on Tuesday. You're going to get this on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then on Saturday. You know what I mean? You can call this guy whenever you need to, and he is going to be able to give you everything you need to know from a mentality standpoint, from a just X's and O's perspective. And for me, I just think that is going to be largely beneficial for Devin because what I've talked about with Devin, I've told you, man, I know people want to throw his performances this past season on the knee, and I've been a big person telling you that I do not think it was the knee, the reason why he was playing like that, because when I cuddle the tape, he runs well. He's not getting outran. He's not getting juked out of his shoes. So it's not that he can't break down. It's not that he can't run fast, but it looks like his eyes are bad. Like he doesn't see what he's supposed to see, or he's late. And when he's late and undersized, it puts him in bad situations. But I said, hey, if you can increase the film study, if you can just increase his overall understanding and reaction time, maybe you tap back into what we saw early in his career that made him so exciting, that made him worth a top 10 pick. And that's the part where I say with Flores, he can potentially tap into that mentality. He can potentially tap into Devin on a personal level, because even though you have Coach Tomlin, Coach has to be the head coach of everyone. So he can't have just this day-to-day one-on-one all the time that a position coach can give you. So when you have a Brian Flores, who is a former head coach in his own right, coming in now being able to give you that one-on-one as a position coach, I just think that the benefit for that is going to be insane, man. So that's why for me, man, my optimism for Devin has shifted a complete 180 because of Brian Flores being here now.
Yeah, and our linebacking coach situation wasn't it weird last year? Wasn't Jerry?
Yeah, so Jerry
out or something?
Yeah, so Jerry
his wife passed away. Was that
correct? Yes, that's correct. So Jerry O, he has been the linebacker coach since 2015 season. But yeah, his wife passed away this season. He took some time away. I don't even remember who exactly they put in position. It could have been Keith Butler still. I'm just not 100% on it. But
so Devin Bush didn't get that detail.
Yeah, he wasn't getting that
you're talking about last year.
Absolutely, because even if it was from a Keith Butler, well, now Keith Butler is having to coach inside and outside linebackers. It's just a different
and
thing.
Be the DC.
Right. That's a lot of hats to wear at one time. So for me, when I think of that, I say, yeah, man, could that have altered his preparation? Could that have altered, his move? Maybe he was grieving as well. We don't know these things because, just think about this, Deke. If I see you every single day, you lose someone close to you, it's going to affect me because I care for you. So if you're Devin, that could easily be the case. I know I wasn't even on the team right now when Jerry O's wife passed away, and it still made me sad just because I know Jerry O. So I can only imagine if I was having to see him every day and know what his heart was feeling, know some of the stuff that he was dealing with. Yeah, it could easily distract me. Now, I'm not saying that that's an excuse. I'm just saying that in terms of context, could that have played a role? Sure. I will still say this as an NFL player. Why I don't view it as an excuse is because as NFL players, we're conditioned mentally, right or wrong, that when it's time to play, none of that matters. When it's time to prepare, none of that matters. So that's why for me, I'm a little harder on Devin for that. But at the same time, it could very well have impacted him. That's all I'm saying with it.
I feel like with Flores there, it just raises the standard.
Yeah, without a doubt, man.
Him being a leader, like even if Devin Bush, we've been questioning his effort.
Yep.
Does he like it, football? Is he really that into it? I feel like with Flores there, he's going to be like a mentor to Bush. You know how we all need some mentors in our lives. Whenever you're in college, maybe in your early 20s, you don't really know the direction you're going in. You want to get there. You want to get to a certain spot. Maybe you don't really know how, though. I think with Flores being there, dude, I talked about the New England linebackers and just his success as a coach, who he is as a person. Dude, like, I was so impressed with that interview that he did with I Am Athlete, man. And I'm like, bro, like, I'd want this guy coaching me. Like, I want some life advice.
Like, he's a genuinely good, advice. Right? He seems like a genuinely good guy who understands morals, understands his values, and he's not willing to compromise those for the success. But he also understands that his goal is never changing. Success is always, at the forefront, whichever he views that as, whether it's, like I said, getting back into the NFL as a coach, winning a Super Bowl, whatever his role is, you could just see he's a very detail-oriented guy, a guy that looks like a leader of men. Listening to Brian Flores talk, it reminds me at times of how Coach Tomlin talks. It reminds me of why I love Coach Tomlin so much and why us as players genuinely gravitate to him because of that just no nonsense, just authenticity. You just know that he is cutting it straight to you, And that's something that as a player, man, that's all you want. You want clarity. And with guys like Tomlin and from hearing from Brian Flores publicly, it just seems like he is a guy that operates with clarity. He operates in that vein of, man, just being transparent, but coming from a position of love. And that is ultimately what you want as a player. You want to feel like, challenge me, push me. But at the same time, let me know that you love me. Let me know that you're doing it because you want me to succeed, not that you're just being a butthole about it,
Yeah, because that's maybe what happened with Devin Bush this year. Like you said, too.
Yeah, seriously, bro.
But maybe at times he felt helpless from the coaching. Like he didn't have proper direction. You know you're going to get that with Flores. And I think step forward or an extra step with that is just Flores as a leader. I feel like him stepping in the building, not only Devin Bush, I feel like everyone's game could be raised. Like him coming from the out, like it might, maybe even Tomlin too, dude, because
it pushes
Flores
him now.
Is on, he's one of his peers too as a head coach, and it was a successful head coach.
Absolutely. So I think that not just are they going to push each other because of that, but I also think they can inspire each other. When you talk about Coach Tom, we know he has great ideas, but at the same time, it's like, man, when you've been in the same organization for, this long in this role, sometimes the creativity can go away because you're not being exposed to different things. You're not having to deal with different organizations, different players, different schematics. Whereas when you talk about Flores, he went from New England to Miami. Drastically different. But at the same time, he's going to be able to come from Miami and give us some things that he got creative with down there, that he was able to cultivate, that he was able to develop. And ultimately, I think that will help Mike Tomlin out because they're going to have conversations. He's going to say, hey, Coach T, when you run this Tampa 2, instead of having this guy always, play it this technique, what if you have this guy heavy hands on him, but then pulls off of this and does this type of technique? Like, it's going to be things like that he's going to be able to say, hey, I was doing this in Miami and we had success. Guys like Xavier and Howard, we talked about him. He's a guy that we definitely wanted. You know what I mean? In terms of
for Depoy.
You see what I'm saying? Like
double-digit picks.
Hey man, you on this Akello train? I'm over here like, bro, call JC Jackson. Let's stop playing games, okay?
You see, he wants $20 million though.
I did see that. I was like, I don't want the 20. I don't want the 20.
Gilmore
bro.
might be the better play. Gilmore might be the play.
Yes, I'm not.
2-year deal. Like
I don't like him for 20, bro.
Pop.
Yes, I do not like that man for 20, man. Yeah, but
then Gilmore and Witherspoon would be a nice little combo.
No, it definitely would, man. And like I said, I just think of the fresh ideas, the new concepts that he's going to be able to introduce. I do think that it's going to have a legitimate impact. I do, man. And like I said, that's the part that it makes it exciting. And that's really what we want, right? We just want to feel like, man, we're not going the direction of a lot of these other organizations when they don't have a franchise quarterback that they fall into irrelevancy. We don't want to be the New Orleans Saints. We want to stay competitive. We want to still be in the conversation every single year. And I think, man, bringing a guy like Brian Flores in here, that does upgrade some of those things. That does fine tune some of these things and ultimately keep us relevant. And like I said, not just from what we have in-house, but also potentially enticing, potentially making free agents want to come here. Because that is another big element when you're talking about bringing in talent and developing talent. They have to want to come here. They have to have the desire. And sometimes it's not always about money. And I've told you that from personal experience. Sometimes it's about fit. Sometimes it's about coaching staff. It's about that trust. You want that continuity. And right now you're seeing that. You're also seeing that, hey, not just continuity, but we're also bringing in higher level coaches. I mean, even in the O-line situation, right? We talked about a guy like Pat Meyer. We said, man, no, he's not the, best of the best in terms of his track record like a Munchak, but he is way more qualified than Adrian Clem. He's way more qualified than a Matt Canada in terms of at the NFL level. So I just continue to like the fact that we are bringing in a higher class of candidates for our position coaches right now. I do think that that's going to pay bigger dividends going forward, man.
Now we just got to see what we do in free agency. It's coming upon us. We got
seriously, dude,
20 days.
Yeah, man. I look. I
You're
feel like
be
when
out
free
there when free agency's popping.
Right at the beginning of it.
First,
yeah,
4 days.
Yeah, man. I was like, it's gonna be a lot of these split screen things, but man, shout out to technology, man. We're gonna make that thing work, baby, without a doubt.
I'm trying to. There was one more thing about the Flores with the linebackers. Now, how do you feel about drafting a guy? How do you feel about Devin Bush? I know we talked about, we feel like Devin Bush should get coached up. Do you view him as the guy now just because of Flores, where we maybe don't have to address the position as much?
Put it like this.
In the early rounds, at least.
It eases my mind in terms of taking a linebacker at 20. But for me personally, I still want to get a guy early. Just because, like I said, with Joe Schobert, what are we doing with him? We know what the contract situation is. We know that he was the starter the large majority of the season. So even if you remove him from that spot, I don't necessarily know how comfortable I am right now with a Devin Bush, Robert Spillane for the duration of the season, just because we haven't seen that development just yet, right? And we know that both of those guys have shown some limitations in different avenues. And a lot of those avenues are the same thing in terms of the coverage part right now. So for me, when I think of that, I'm just saying to myself, like, I still am not as comfortable with that, because also the injury element, right? All it takes is one guy going down, and now we're out here talking Spillane and Marcus Allen, Spillane and Buddy Johnson, or Buddy Johnson and Marcus Allen, like we saw, or we didn't see that, but a combination that was going to look like that at times. That just doesn't make me feel the most comfortable. Can we get out of a stadium like that? Sure, but I don't want to do that every week. So that's why for me, I still would want to draft a guy, whether it be second, third round. If you have a guy that's right. Yeah, it's like, I just think that, and it's like I said, it's hard to say right now at 20 just because we don't know what we're going to do quarterback wise through free agency. If we look aggressive at second free agency, we go out there and get a quarterback. Well, hey, at 20 now, go take a linebacker, go take a lineman, go take a corner. You know, but if we're not aggressive at that, going for a quarterback then, and say a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett is there at 20, maybe then you're like, you know what, let's go get this guy because we didn't think he would be available to us there. So that's why it's like, I could just, either way, I think you have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of when you need to address that linebacker spot. I also don't rule out free agency as well, man. I think that's still an element that could be on the table, you know, in terms of bringing one of those guys in that is, you know, just already.
Hightower isn't the worst call.
No, and that's what I'm saying. Like a guy that's already been proven. Yeah.
Call the defense, be the leader.
Yeah.
And then Devin Bush goes back to more maybe of his rookie season role.
Absolutely.
That wouldn't be terrible.
Absolutely. So when I think of that and price point, he's not going to cost anything crazy to do that. So
no, not at this point in his career. No.
Right. So when you put those guys in there like that, I say to myself, yeah, man, this could definitely work out just fine. I mean, you bring in one of those veteran guys in, mid-tier bridge type of guy, 1-2 year deal. Now I like it a lot. Now I don't mind Devin Bush being out there with this veteran guy because I know I at least have the surefire guy. Because with Devin, it's still speculation. We're still optimistic, and we have a lot more reason to be optimistic now with Brian Flores being here. But at the same time, we understand that, hey, we still have to see the work happen. We got to see the development happen. We got to see the improvement happen. And we know it takes two to tango. It can't just be Flores coaching, pouring his heart into this guy. Devin actually still has to want to improve. He still has to want to watch more tape. He still has to want to make more plays and not just say it, but actually show it like we talked about. So that's why for me, it's like, man, I still would potentially want to bring in a guy earlier in that draft in first 2 to 3 rounds personally.
It's funny, though. We feel good about Devin Bush being a guy now, at least, right?
No, absolutely, though. Yes. I still think he can be completely. A guy. Yes.
Like if we don't bring in the veteran guy, all of a sudden, Devin Bush, leader of the defense.
Yeah.
Is that what we're going with? Is that the moniker? Devin Bush, the guy.
The guy. The 5'5".
That's the X Factor Flores brings now.
I hope you're right. I'm a little nervous, but as a whole, I do feel way more optimistic because of Brian Flores being in the building, though.